Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Definitely.
So it's this English learning podcast called Daily Money Briefing.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
It's actually pretty cool. You get the
Yeah.
financial news and kind of a language lesson all in one.
Oh, I like that. Sort of killing two birds with one stone.
Exactly.
Today, we're looking at three different economic headlines.
That's right.
We've got the Korean one making some big moves, then a major nuclear deal over in Europe hitting a serious snag.
Yeah, quite the story there.
And finally, the government back home borrowing quite a bit of money.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today is to sort of connect these dots, see what they tell us together about South Korea's economy.
Exactly. You've got currency, international business, domestic finances. It's a fascinating mix. Seeing how they interact is key.
Okay, let's jump in. First up, the won. It's been climbing. Just last month, the rate against the dollar, USD KRW, was nearly 14.83.
Right, pretty high.
Then, boom. By May 5th, it drops into the 1370s. That was in the New York NDF market.
Uh-huh. That NDF market often gives us an early signal.
And 1370-something, that's the strongest the one's been since, what, last November?
Correct. Since November last year, it's quite a reversal.
So what's behind it? What's driving this?
Well, there are a couple of things. Likely. Some optimism, maybe, about U.S.-China trade talks making progress.
Okay, the usual suspect.
Kind of. But a really big push seems to have come from Taiwan. Their dollar surged, like over 9% in just 2 days.
Wow, 9%. Why?
The thinking is that Taiwan might be letting its currency strengthen, as part of trade negotiations with the U.S.
Ah, okay.
And that expectation just pulled other Asian currencies up with it, like a tide lifting nearby boats, including the won.
So a regional effect kicked off by Taiwan. Now, on the surface, a stronger one.
That sounds good, right? Makes imports cheaper.
It definitely can. Cheaper imports can help tame inflation a bit, which is usually welcome.
But
for South Korea's big exporters, cars, electronics, their products suddenly look more expensive to buyers overseas.
right.
So unless they can adjust their dollar pricing, it could squeeze their profits. It's a double-edged sword.
Got it. Okay, let's pivot to Europe.
Mm.
This huge nuclear deal in the Czech Republic, $18 billion.
Massive deal for the Dukovany nuclear project, involving South Korea's KHNP. And it gets stopped. Temporarily, but still, like right before they were supposed to sign.
Literally the day before. A Czech court stepped in, put the brakes on.
Why? What happened?
The last-minute legal challenge came from France's EDF.
Ah, the losing bidder.
Exactly. They argued that, look, if this deal goes through now, even if we win our legal case later, it's pointless.
Right. The train's already left the station.
Precisely. And the court agreed, citing potential irreversible damage. So, yeah, a major hurdle appearing right at the finish line.
That is dramatic. A last-minute lawsuit derailing something that big. Does this cause wider problems for South Korea's nuclear plans in Europe?
It certainly could. South Korea was also in the running for another Czech project, Temelin. This legal challenge throws uncertainty over both. Potential delays, questions. It really shows how complex these huge international projects are.
Yeah, legal risks are always there, I guess.
Especially at this scale.
Okay, let's bring it back home to South Korea. We're hearing about the government borrowing a lot from the Bank of Korea.
71 trillion won. Just in the first 4 months of this year. That's about, what, 52 billion US dollars?
That's a staggering amount. What's going on? Why borrow so much?
Well, it usually points to, fiscal pressure. The signs suggest tax revenues are down,
Okay,
especially corporate taxes. That can happen when the economy slows down.
right.
And at the same time, the government is trying to spend more, maybe to stimulate the economy.
So less money coming in, more going out. They need to fill the gap.
Exactly. And they're doing it using what's called the Bank of Korea overdraft. It's basically a short-term loan from the central bank, a very big one.
Is that normal
Oh,
or something to worry about? And it's not free money, right?
It's a mechanism they can use, but yeah, it comes at a cost.
Yeah.
They paid something like 44.5 billion won in interest just for the first quarter. And lawmakers are noticing. They're urging the government and the central bank to try and keep this kind of borrowing to a minimum in the future.
Because relying on it too much could signal deeper problems.
It can, yes. Deeper fiscal issues, and potentially raises questions about central bank independence down the road if it becomes routine.
Okay, so let's try and weave these threads together. We have the one, strengthening, partly due to things happening outside Korea, like in Taiwan.
Right. Global and regional factors.
Then you've got this major overseas business deal, the nuclear plant, hitting a legal wall, shows the risks of international ventures.
Definitely highlights uncertainty.
And back home, significant government borrowing, pointing towards some domestic economic strain, maybe slower growth leading to lower tax intake.
Exactly. Lower taxes, higher spending needs.
It really feels like these aren't separate stories at all, are they?
Not really. They're interconnected. Global trends affect the currency, international deals face hurdles, and domestic policy responds to internal economic conditions, like needing to borrow. It's all part of the same complex picture for South Korea right now.
The stronger one might feel good short-term, but maybe masks some issues, while the deal setback and the borrowing are clearer signs of challenges.
That's a good way to put it. You've got these external influences, specific industry setbacks, and internal fiscal pressures all happening at once.
So it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? When you put all this together, what does this suggest about the long-term road ahead for South Korea? For its economic stability, its global standing. What questions does this raise for you about how all these forces, global trade, legal fights, domestic budgets, interact in today's world?
That really is the core question, isn't it? How resilient is the South Korean economy when facing these kinds of combined pressures? It forces a look at the long-term strategies needed to navigate such a complex environment both globally and domestically to ensure that economic stability continues. It's certainly something to keep watching. Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.